The most common question I get on this channel is, I want to become a firefighter, where should I start? And everybody that asks me that, I give them the exact same answer, which is if you have no experience, no knowledge, start with an EMS certification. Either become an EMT basic or even better, become a paramedic. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to give you some actual practical tips of how to survive EMT and or paramedic school. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a little different than any of your other schooling. And if you're in paramedic or EMT school right now, let me know in the comments below. Or if you're thinking about it, let me know in the comments below. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that I'm sure you've heard a million different people say that EMT school, paramedic school is so hard and you're going to barely make it through. And while they're correct in an extent, it is going to be difficult and there is going to be work required. It's also not impossible. And what makes it difficult isn't necessarily the schooling itself. It isn't necessarily the content that you'll be learning. It's just the volume of material. It's a lot of information and it's a lot of school packed into a very short amount of time. And that's what makes it difficult. You are certainly capable of passing the class and getting good grades and passing the tests. You just need to go into it with the right approach, knowing that you're going to be doing a lot and it's going to be taking up a lot of time for the next either 6 months, year, 2 years, depending on how long your schooling is. So the first tip I want to give you has to do with just that. The number one thing I want to tell you is you need to stay organized. If you've never been to EMT or paramedic school, it's going to be different than your standard schooling. You're not only going to be doing in-class stuff, meaning you're going to be sitting at a desk, taking notes, taking tests, doing all the other things you did through junior high, high school, and possibly college. You're also going to be doing a lot of hands-on stuff. There's a lot of practical skills that you need to learn, starting IVs, doing CPR, intubation, all sorts of different stuff like that. So you're going to be doing a lot more hands-on stuff. In addition to that, you're going to be required, and this depends on your state, to do actual ride time. There's a certain amount of hours that you have to do for EMT and a certain amount of hours you have to do to become a paramedic in your given state in order to pass and meet the requirements and get your certification. So it's going to be different than anything you've ever done. And because of all of these different things, in addition to the classroom time, in addition to the practical time, and in addition to the actual ride time, if you work full time, if you have a family, or spend time with friends, or anything else that you do in your day-to-day life, it can get very hectic and it can get very crowded. So I promise you, you will not regret it if you stay organized. I'm old school, I don't have my planner, but I use a traditional day planner. Some people that doesn't work for, there's a million different calendar apps, organization apps, to-do lists. If that's what works for you, I can't recommend to you strongly enough that you find some sort of way to stay organized during your time in school. The next thing that I would say is check your mindset and the people that you spend time around. And I mean this in two different ways. People that spend a lot of time working in public safety can tend to become burned out. And I'm not even saying that is in a bad way. Working with the public, especially in public safety, you see a lot of tragic stuff. You deal with a lot of sad things. You deal with a lot of abuse in the sense of people call 911 for emergencies for things that aren't emergencies. People treat you like crap a lot. Chances are you're probably not that highly paid. And that contributes to a lot of burnout much earlier than traditional for other people in other careers. So as you're going through paramedic school and as you're going through ride time, I promise you, you're going to come across people that are just going to be burned out. They're going to have a negative view on life, on the job, and that is contagious. So as much as you can, stay away from people like that. Try and find people that are still working in public safety in the career, in EMS and fire, that are still excited about the job and have passion about the job and doing it properly. That's going to serve you well in the long run. So I highly recommend you be very careful who you spend time around. The other thing that I was going to say in regards to checking your mindset is kind of what I said earlier. I'm sure everybody that you've talked to before you went into school or now that you're in school hangs over your head the fact that you have to take the national registry at the end of this. And it's just a monster of a test. And I know people that failed and never passed. People said that nonstop when I was going through EMT and medic school, and they get people so scared. And what I've realized is that I think it's our egos that likes to do that to other people, to tell them how hard things were and how we overcame them and how they'll be lucky if they can do the same. But there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of EMTs and paramedics out there. If hundreds of thousands or millions of other people can do it, you can do it too. And there's not nearly enough people out there encouraging young firefighters, EMTs, medics, police officers, or whatever else it is that you want to do for a career, saying that you can do that. But there's way too many people out there saying, oh my God, you'll be lucky if you pass. I know somebody that failed. Don't listen to that. Stay away from that. The National Registry is difficult. It's designed to be difficult, but you can do it. So don't forget that. The next little tip I want to give you is, as you go through school, like I said before, in addition to the actual academics of sitting there and taking notes and taking tests, you're going to have to do a lot of practical hands-on skills. Well, at the end of the class, whether it be EMT or paramedic, when you test out, there's an entire day dedicated to the hands-on skill section. When they test you on those, they give you skill sheets. So for example, one of the skills might be you have to do a trauma scenario. Well, they'll give you a scenario on a trauma scene and you have to assess a patient from beginning to end, call report, and end it. And maybe there's one for a full arrest. If you're not sure what a full arrest is, that means someone's heart stopped and you have to do CPR and give drugs and all of that. There might be a medical emergency where somebody's having a diabetic emergency or something. You have to walk through that. Well, over the course of the class, they will, as you learn these different things, they will give you actual skill sheets that will be the ones that you use to test out on at the end of the class. Take those skill sheets and memorize them. And that starts with the day that you get that particular skill sheet, start looking at it daily. If you can't look at it daily, because I get it, life is busy, look at it certainly weekly, but try to do it every couple days. Just review them. You don't have to go through and do an entire practical test every single day, but just get as familiar with them as you can, because at the end of the class, whether it be EMT or paramedic, it will serve you so well to have those memorized. Because literally when they test you off, as long as you're hitting these different markers of whatever they're testing you out on, you're going to pass that section. So get familiar with them over the course of the entire course, and it will serve you well at the end. The next thing I'm going to say is, when you go on your ride time, be eager to go learn. Go in there with a good attitude. I don't care how much experience you had somewhere else, or working as a volunteer in a hospital, or you knew somebody that worked as a medic and they told you certain things. Be eager to learn and have an open mind. And that usually begins with you talking less and listening more. The less you talk, the more you learn. Remember that. Now, going forward, you might end up having a bad preceptor. And if that's the case, that's something totally different. You'll have to sort that out with whoever your clinical advisor is. But in the meantime, go in there with an open mind. Go in there ready to learn. Go in there well-rested, positive attitude, and other people will notice that, and it will prepare you to be a better EMT or medic in the future and only help you going forward. The last thing I'm going to talk about is, be mindful of how you're presenting yourself, how you're acting, how well you're prepared, and pretty much everything that you're doing while you're doing ride time. Most of you watching this channel are interested in getting into the fire service, and one of the most important things you can do to get into the fire service is go to EMT or paramedic school. And many of you, when you're doing your ride time, will be doing that with fire departments. Now, some of you will be doing it with strictly EMS departments or agencies, but a lot of you will be using fire departments to get your ride time in. When you show up at a fire department, that is a professional environment, and people will expect you to dress a certain way, to act a certain way, to be prepared a certain way. The best way to approach your ride time is, think of it like a prolonged tryout. If you're going to be doing ride time at a particular department, or maybe a small set of departments, 2 or 3 different departments, over the course of 6 months or so, this is your chance to shine, because down the road, when you apply to that department, they will remember you. I promise the last thing you want to do is be the person that when you apply after you finish medic school to a particular fire department, everybody on the department already knows who you are and they already have a bad impression of you. The other thing that I will say is that the fire service is very, very small, and so is EMS, by the way. If you earn a bad reputation as a student, it will follow you after being a student. I actually made an entire video on this I called it Rules for Riders. If you're getting ready to do ride time, be sure to check out this video here. I go over some things that you'll want to keep in mind, certain ways that you'll want to dress, act, things you do and do not want to do while you're during your ride time. So as always, I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you found this useful. And if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Consider subscribing to the channel. I do lives on this channel now where I will go live and you can jump on. You can ask me questions about EMS, fire, fitness, preparing for whatever, any sort of test, really anything you want. So as always, I hope you found this useful, and I will see you guys in the next video.